Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience while we get everybody on Zoom that's going to present to you today. I'm glad to see all of our friends from the principal associations and all of our members from MASA joining today to hear more about gun sanity to solve the gun madness. We have great presenters today. We have Debbie Schneider, and we also are hoping to have Sergeant Melvin Carter on, who is dealing with an issue with Zoom, and we have Pam Hoff on as well. Pam Hoff is a research professor specialist at the University of Minnesota Psychology Department. Debbie Schneider blends technology and the arts to champion social change, and she's an outreach lead for Save Our Sons. And many of you might be familiar with Sergeant Melvin Carter. He's a retired St. Paul police officer, and he's the executive director of Save Our Sons. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie, who will start the presentation, and Sergeant Carter will join us in a little bit. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Deb. Well, welcome, and thank you for coming today. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this lesson plan with you. I must admit that sometimes when there's a shooting, I feel like, wow, I'm sitting on a golden egg, and I'm not able to figure out how to share it with people. So I hope that this works for you, and that we've done a good job of packaging a lesson plan that meets all of the requirements of the Minnesota statute for gun violence prevention training when paired with an active shooter view. So let's talk a little bit about what we put together in this package. Dave, if you can move to the next slide, please. So what we've put together here is a lesson that really features the Gun Sanity film, which is a film that we'll talk more about it as we go forward. But we released it, Save Our Sons, released it last April, so April of 24. And then also combining that with some of the elements of the Sandy Hook Promise, Say Something training, so that it meets all the requirements and it also is evidence-based, which is another requirement. And I will say that my opinion is that gun sanity and the Sandy Hook Promise Say Something training complement each other. They do a really good job of gun sanity being kind of the engaging part of the training, and then Sandy Hook Promise providing really nice, practical skills to equip our young people to help create a safe future for all of us. So I think it's a great combination to have put together. So what we have in this package, and we can certainly during this webinar even move to our website, we'll do that to see the Gun Sanity film, because it's an 11-minute film, so we do have time to watch it during this Zoom session. We have a lesson plan there, and we also have the web links to the films, so certainly the Gun Sanity can be watched from the Save Our Sons website. We have a PDF that can be used as slides in the classroom if you would like. We have an exit ticket that comes to us, and we'll talk more about that too. And then also a parental opt-out letter in English, that because again, that's part of the statute that you provide that opt-out letter. So we're providing that opt-out letter for you. So you just fill in a few things and you're good to go with that. So let's talk a little bit more. If we can go to the next slide, Dave. We'll talk a little bit more about this statute. So it's the statute is requiring one class period of evidence-based training for gun violence prevention to be delivered for schools or charter schools that are conducting active shooter drills. And if you were in the webinar last month, had the opportunity to listen to the Violence Prevention Project, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Densley, I mean, they're just amazing. Not only do they do fantastic research, that if you really wanted to dig into this, you could have your students go to their website and start looking at some of their research. It could be an interesting statistics, but anyway, they talked about this already. So this is, but for those who hadn't seen it yet, the things that are learning objectives for this training include identifying observable warning signs, and then taking those threats seriously and seeking help, and then how do you report what you see. So it's very pragmatic and lines up well with the Sandy Hook see something, say something training also in terms of uh, how you can move forward to really prevent gun violence in your school. And Gun Sanity really is focused on the observable warning signs. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide, Dave, and we'll talk a little bit about the agenda of the lesson plan and what you would have to do as a school to support this lesson, which hopefully is minimal. So the lesson plan goes through introduction, what are the learning objectives, an opening question, and a few ground rules because this is a sensitive topic. And then watching the 11-minute film, reflecting a few minutes on it. It's powerful enough that I think we've found in showings that just having a minute to reflect is useful for everyone that sees it, whether they are youth. And Melvin will talk more about all the youth in St. Paul that have already seen this particular film. But we'll talk about, and their reactions to it. That's something he'll talk about next. Then warning signs discussions are important because that's the thing that we really want the students to get that awareness. That's the first skill that you're really developing after engaging them. And then moving to the Sandy Hook curriculum to help them take threats seriously and know how to seek help, how to go to for help, who's the trusted adult, what are they like? And then how do you do the reporting in your school, and an exit ticket to help us at Save Our Sons to be able to get more data about the effectiveness of our training. So what you will need to do in your school is there is a reporting slide that will talk about that talks about the state BCA reporting system. And if you have specific reporting in your school, I know some school districts that I've looked at have maybe a special website that you might go to, and you might have a preference as to, do you want your students to use the statewide and you use the specific? So you'll need to tailor that particular piece to your needs in your school. And then some type of exit space for somebody that might be a little emotional over the content. I know one time when we were doing a showing in St. Paul at a cafe with a large amount of youth, a young woman, probably 12, came up to me and talked to me a little bit about how emotionally difficult it was for her because her mother had died of gun violence. So having that exit space for somebody that gets that emotional triggers is a good thing, to do in terms of, when they talk about trauma-induced training. And then also an opt-out space because the statute does require that parents or guardians can opt their their students out of this training. So you'll need to have a space for that. And then just the tech to be able to play both the gun Sanity, and there's a short say something clip that's about 3 minutes. Again, well done by students, which I really, as someone who's been in the gun violence prevention uh, space for over a year, I really just appreciate when students take that leadership role. I think that it inspires their peers and gives them, that power to make a difference in their future. So that's what you'll need to do, and then everything else is hopefully with the script and the lesson plan, you'll be good to go. So I see that Sergeant Melvin Carter has joined us. Uh, Melvin has been a mentor in St. Paul for decades. Every other week, he'll have someone stop him at a coffee shop, a grocery store, and thank him for the actions that he took to save their lives and what a difference he made in their life. And I look at Gun Sanity as just him passing that wisdom through the film with Emmy Award winning Peter B. Meyer to really make a difference to even a wider group of people. So with that, I'm going to let Melvin talk about, and we can go to the next slide, please, Dave. Talk about, introduce himself and talk about what motivated him to create this particular film, the responses that he's had from the students who have participated in the film with him. Melvin's done a lot of talkbacks on the film, and then how it has also inspired other youth. So, good morning, Melvin. I'll let you take it from here.
Good morning, Debbie and everyone. Thank you for your tolerance, your patience, your understanding. I hope not to require so much, but the situation is worthy of it. My name is Melvin W. Carter, and I just finished about maybe close to 30 years of policing. And the main thing, the reason that I'm obsessed with preventing gun violence is because I've had at least two immediate loved ones taken from me in the twinkling of an eye, for which I'm never free of. It's never not radiating with me, and I've lost too many friends and family due to gun violence. So I'm obsessed with it. About maybe 15 years ago, we released this little booklet, and I handed them out. We self-published this, and it's pretty rich, and you'll see this diagram on the in the video, and it's powerful. And a lot of people that wound up reading it said it was helpful, but the problem was that the youth that it's intended to embellish didn't read it. I'd hand it out on bus stops, and they leave it in the seats, and so many times I brought it to JDC and Boys Totem Town, and they didn't read it, and so I thought that the Gun Sanity film would be more powerful. Gun Sanity is in response to what I experience as when a bullet goes through a human being's body or crashes through their brains. It's an act of extreme madness. And I think one of the dangers that we got to confront and face is to prevent this from normalizing gun violence. So my effort is to reduce gun violence as a community, as a movement, as though our lives itself depends upon it. Law enforcement can enforce, legislators can legislate. But you know, as we all know as teachers, the bottom line of creating a better future is preparing our children and teaching them well so that they can lead the way. Schools have addressed issues of drunken driving, stranger danger, drugs, and I say drugs already, but so many other things. And I propose, if there's any truth to the research that gun violence is the #1 killer of our children, we all got to do something. And this is ground zero of us doing our part. You know, and it's a multi-spoked wheel. You know, since we released this in about late 2003, gun violence in our vicinity, particularly St. Paul, has plummeted by some 80% close to. Whereas we can't take all of the credit, but because because we work cooperatively with schools and youth programs and other organizations, law enforcement too, we claim to be a significant spoken, and we can't underplay that. So I want to introduce this thing, and I want to say this: this is not a gun safety video. It's not pro-gun. It's not anti-guns. It's not against people possessing guns. It's against guns possessing people, their lives, their future, their freedom. In this, youth will see, they will receive some after the fact wisdom by people who can get them some, prepare them for the inevitability of being in the situation where there's a gun, because our communities are permeated with guns. I believe it to be an inevitability that youth be in a place where they have to confront a gun. I want to give them, oh snap, there's a gun. Oh snap, there's somebody in a situation where drugs and liquor are in the same situation. Oh snap, there's an idiot with the finger in the trigger, and prepare them to evacuate, to speak up, or to go get some help, or turn them in. You know, just prepare them. This is not telling them what to think, instead of getting them to think. And so, what else? What am I missing, Debbie?
I I think what you just said about preparing them to think, you should tell people what you learned in all those years when you asked
Aha.
them what they were thinking.
Thank you, Debbie. You know what? And so, as you know, I was a detective. I was a investigator, and I was a first responder. I was with them when they drew their last breath. I was with them in the emergency room. I was with them in the courtrooms, and I was with them in the interrogation room when they realized that what they have done. It finally dawned on them. And when you ask them, you get in the face, you mean to tell me you pulled the trigger on a human being? You took a life for that? And then way after the fact, uh, they get it. In most situations, I've never seen a situation where it's truly an act of evil, an act of being sinister is almost always an act of stupidity because they didn't think. And so this is to give them some stimuli before the fact. And what we found is that when we show this to youth, I'd say like 60% of them automatically want other youth to see it because they got so much out of it. And they're really glad to have somebody give them this perspective. If we can just, and so the effort for this thing is to give people some thought to prepare them if they wind up in that set of circumstances, if they have, before they pull the trigger, to go, oh my gosh, this is the situation that this video prepared me for, and to give pause. And I think if we can just give people to give pause because they when in the presence of a handgun, I think that's the first stage of dismantling gun violence. So this is intended to be the first of several, because you will see some things that this thing does that's very powerful, but you see some things that it didn't do. You see some things that we should have done. And so we ask that kind of feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you for that introduction to the film. Let's take the opportunity to watch it since it's 11 minutes long.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. This is the Gun Sanity film. Go ahead and have Dave play it for us.
For the third time in less than 3 weeks, a child is shot in the head in North Minneapolis.
New details this evening in a St. Paul shooting that left 1 girl dead and 3 hurt.
75 people have been murdered in Minneapolis so far this year. That grim statistic includes 3 young children who lost their lives to gun violence.
With more guns in households, advocates say there's a greater need for educating kids about gun safety. This push comes after a 10-year-old boy was shot and killed by another juvenile in Minneapolis over the weekend. The gun in that case not secured properly.
My son was Jace Wilson, and he passed on December 2020 from a gunshot wound from a gun that was left in the bathroom.
Shootings are now the leading cause of death for children and teens in the U.S. Every day, 22 of them are shot.
And you know your friends and your family that are recklessly carrying guns. I'm saying turn them in. That's right. Take the gun, have a conversation, get them some help.
Hello, I'm retired St. Paul Police Sergeant Melvin Carter. Like many of you, I've lost far too many relatives, friends, and family to gun violence. People buy guns with the idea of protecting their families, their homes, their property. But the fact is that guns are more likely to be used on the owners and members of the household. Many of these tragedies occur because someone left a loaded gun laying around the house where a child could find it. These heartbreaking incidents could have been avoided if only the gun owner had acted responsibly and left the guns locked up. We have to do something to stop this devastation. Gun violence destroys 2 lives, the shooter and the victim. Unfortunately, we can't hear from the victim, but we can introduce you to the shooters. Every day, their lives are filled with pain and regret. My hope is that these stories will help you see the destruction that can happen in a split second, in order to prevent you from making the same mistakes. I want you to meet Cody, a young man whose reckless gun handling took the life of his best friend. Cody will have to live with the fact that he took another person's life for the rest of his days because of a game he was playing.
In that particular night, I remember a couple of my friends were doing ecstasy pills. You know, all of us did have illegal firearms on us. One game we used to play, we'd empty out a pistol and draw it on each other and played a couple rounds of that. I heard somebody come down the stairs. It was DJ. As he got to the bottom of the stairs, he didn't see that I was right behind him, and I pointed the gun at him and I pulled the trigger and the gun went off. After I went around to the front of him, a pool of blood went into my hands. And I don't know, I went into like shock. I think victimizing someone else physically victimizes you spiritually. And not a lot of people understand what that really means until they go through it. But it's very real. I contemplated death a couple times. One, because I was terrified to go to sleep and was being tormented in my dreams. I wanted that to end. I was terrified of a lot of different things. You know, I let down my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, and my siblings. You know, and I think that was probably my biggest regret, was constantly feeling that disappointment, being ignorant and doing what I wanted to do versus doing what I should have done.
Stories like Cody's are all too common today. With so many guns on the street, you could easily find yourself in a situation where guns are present. Careless mistakes can happen, and they can be fatal. I want you to meet 3 men who were convicted of gun violence and served prison time. Their situations were different, but their testimonies shared the same message. A single bad decision made in the heat of the moment changed their lives forever.
I was a young kid who committed a serious transgression, and in January of 1995, I took a man's life. I was charged and convicted with a second-degree murder. I was incarcerated for that time, and I spent a little under 2 decades of prison time. I was released in 2013, and from that point forward till today, of course, I feel like I've been working to live up to my potential, I guess, make people proud, maybe, but really to try to get past, or what we could call repent, for that 30 seconds that destroyed, and really destroyed a lot of lives.
And your own as well.
Definitely my own as well, yes.
So do you feel as though you've done yourself a disservice by shooting the other person?
Do I feel like I did myself a disservice? Oh, big time. I mean, I did the community, I did my family, I did his family a disservice. When we're talking to young people, why I say, you know, you have to sit with it, because eventually you will regret it. If you do it, eventually you will regret it.
I didn't really start to regret it until I was sitting in the county charged with first-degree murder. And it wasn't the charge that woke me up. The charge, when it really hit me is when I heard my son's voice on the phone. That's when it hit me.
Would it be an overstatement for me to try to reflect it in being involved in that homicide? You committed an act against yourself?
100%, 100%. Long before that shot was fired at Mr. Cheesley, other shots were fired, and it was killing me. You know, even though I'm shooting or doing whatever I'm doing, it was killing a part of me, the innocence in me, the humanity in me. I chose the street over my kids, over my family. I chose the street over my own self. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I put the streets before my mama, my kids, everybody I said I loved. I abandoned them for this. And so the effects of your actions, they don't just go away. When they release you from that cage, I have trauma from prison. I was tormented in my heart and my mind every day in that cage, tormented. I still, like, no matter what life brings, I still gotta carry the fact that I was involved in another man losing his life. Whether I pulled the trigger or not, I was involved. This man ain't never coming back. You know what I'm saying? His mama don't get to hug him, hear his voice, none of that, you know? And so that never leaves. I may be out of prison, but I'm still not free.
I had an anger problem. So I chose to make decisions that I was told over and over again. If you do that, this is gonna happen. Not me. If you do that, this is what's gonna happen. Not me. So I chose that avenue thinking that I can break the system, break the norm. Did I ever think about what I was doing? Not one iota. It's good to pack a gun, they believe that, until you hurt someone or take someone's life. I had no regard for anyone but me. So it didn't make a difference to me. I didn't learn empathy until I started getting on my own healing path and started accepting my responsibilities for the wrong that I've done. But in doing that, I lost my son, my grandmother, my brother had a stroke and an aneurysm, my uncle died. All in the course of those 30 years. I had to find myself. So did a part of me die? I think the worst part of me died. Of loneliness and shame. So what happened the day I pulled the trigger and took this young man's life? My life was taken too.
So you sabotaged yourself in the pulling of the trigger?
So I killed 2 people.
And so I killed 2 people. Just think about that. That's what it really feels like in the taking of another person's life. Whether the act was accidental or not, the fact is that the shooter's life is changed forever, and so are the lives of everyone else who loves them. On an average day in America, more than 130 people are killed by gun violence, and many more are wounded. But it doesn't need to be that way. Here's 8 warning signs that the gun may be possessing you. 1, you suddenly get some courage that you didn't have in the first place. You put yourself in situations that only a gun can solve. You become careless, leaving guns around the house unlocked. You need a gun to prove something. You have a gun when drinking or drugging. A gun replaces your personality. Gun use comes to mind before negotiating or apologizing. Gun use overpowers your mind, your heart, and soul. Do any of these situations strike close to home, reminding you of a friend, a family member, or yourself? Guns are everywhere, so we all need to be aware when a handgun is present. Be prepared to speak up, leave the scene, or both. The life you save may be your own.
Always takes a minute to reflect after that. Melvin, would you like to lead us through a reflection, and we move on to the next slide, Dave, through a little bit of a discussion on the film?
Well, I'd like to get some feedback. I don't know if there's provisions for that, but I think there's some pearls in there that the youth need to hear. You know, this thing was intended to be just addressing the first stage was 2 stages of what we talked about was accidental and unintentional shootings, and then eventually, hopefully, we hope to morph into intentional. And so this was more multifaceted than we thought it would be because it kind of focused on intentional, but underlying was some things, some pearls that help prevent being in situations where accidental, because a good percentage of those shootings and deaths and injuries are either accidental or unintentional. And so I think everybody's kind of figuring out what's the difference between the two. And if you are, I win because now you're thinking. So, and then that's what we want to do. We want to jumpstart the thought process, and we want to if we just started attacking the intentional, we're just lecturing because everybody knows that you're not supposed to shoot somebody, but somehow it continues to happen. And so I'll just relinquish that for now and say that if people think this is some good, we can get it. You can have it in your school with or without me, and it's a good tool for parents to use because the solution to most problems is to begin to be able to talk about it, and this gives a vehicle to disagree or agree, and either way, you know, you're talking about it, and so hopefully we can use this to as a bigger audience than just St. Paul, and hopefully it's a tool that we pray that it can be, and hopefully we can get more support. The president of our board just texted me to let people know that we need some funds to go forward with this. But you can use it with or without us, free of charge. I mean, it's not something we're selling. It's something that if we can save one life, it's worth it. But actually, you know, I have a feeling we're saving multitudes. We're getting all kinds. I'm getting lots of feedback of how mothers are using it to talk to their sons, and how kids are even using it to talk to each other. Even at different schools, they've opened up different workshops to study gun violence. So I relinquish the floor to wherever this meeting goes from here on out. I can be there if you need me to come. I'm just a phone call away. I'll come to wherever you're at. To either border or beyond. because this is not just a program for me, it's a way of life, and it's a movement for many of us. I propose gun sanity in the face of all this gun madness.
Yeah, thank you, Melvin. And definitely Melvin is excellent at helping your students think critically. He's been in a lot of classrooms in St. Paul in the last year, showing the film and participating in talkbacks. Melvin's contact information is on our website, and I did post our website on in the chat, where you'll see the film, and then there's a button on the homepage that says teacher resources that will take you to a page that will have the components of the lesson that I talked about. So as we're looking at the lesson, if we move to the next slide, Dave, as you're going through the lesson with your students, you've seen the gun sanity, you've reflected on it for a minute. One of the bridge, I think, to the Sandy Hook curriculum is thinking about the say something component of the Sandy Hook curriculum, and the fact that because there is a bullet on both ends, when you say something, you're not throwing your friend under the bus. It's for the benefit of everyone. Your friend will maybe get the help that they need. Well, they will get, I mean, if you're saying something, talking to a trusted adult. So it's really an opportunity to think about the fact that when you speak up, you're speaking up for the benefit of everyone. So if we look at the next slide, it's just a real brief overview of where we go into the Sandy Hook Promise Say Something curriculum. Again, using a film. This one is 3 minutes, created by students, talking about an upstander versus a bystander. And the students did a fantastic job of really showing the characteristics of someone who is going to stand up, say something about bullying, be concerned about a friend who maybe is considering suicide. So they did a good job of that. There's also a trusted adult in that film, which can also lead into a discussion on who are the trusted adults. Family, community leaders, teachers, coaches, all of the potential people in the school, and an opportunity to just brainstorm a little bit about trusted adults so that your students can think about who the trusted adult would be in their life that they would speak out to. Now, the next slide talks about the last portion of what's required from the state level, and that's reporting. So at statewide, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, in conjunction with the BCA, does have an anonymous reporting system. And in our notes, we've got the website, the phone number. There's also an app that all of us could download. I'm going to do that this week, and report, anonymously report things. And you could even attach a picture or a video to that reporting system. And then the BCA works with the schools and the Education Safety Center to make sure that that reporting happens and that it's important. And if you have something specific for your school, you'll want to add that to this training. And then there's an exit question with a few questions related to the learning objectives in terms of naming warning signs, talking about trusted adults, how would you report things in that exit ticket. So that's what we've got for you. I think at this point in time, we can open it up for questions. You can feel free to drop your question in the chat, or come off mute and ask a question.
Also criticisms.
Hi, this is Stacy Stanley, Superintendent in St. Paul. Hi, Sergeant Carter. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
And this isn't a question. It is a statement. So, folks read in the newspaper about recently, actually, first week of school, when we came across a gun in our schools. And this is what I will say: the say something piece is so important, because that's exactly what happened. We got a report and we were able to check in on that right away. And so it is the coupled piece. It is trying to get the guns out of the hands of our kids, while at the same time creating the space where kids know. Debbie, I liked what you said there. They're not throwing their friend under the bus. They're not, back in the day we called it squilling on people. They aren't doing that. They are protecting themselves and they are protecting others. And so the school district, long before I came, had started working with Sergeant Carter, but then also with Sandy Hook Promise. So I will just give a testimony, if you will, and how that made such a difference a couple weeks ago.
Great to hear.
Thank you.
Yes, and I agree. I think this saves something if someone had a lot of time to really dig into that curriculum. There's so much there in terms of what your students can learn. They can practice talking to a trusted adult. There's other videos available on warning signs and things. So yes, I think that curriculum is fantastic, and that is really important. Thank you for sharing that.
Sergeant Carter, this is Deb Henton, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, and it's an honor to have you on this webinar today. I know that you have dedicated your life to preventing gun violence, and the video is really powerful. I will not forget that young man, or I suppose he's not quite so young, but I'm getting old, so everybody looks young, talking about that he took his own life when he took somebody else's. That's really powerful language that I would hope anyways, resonates with viewers of the video. So I thank you so much for sharing it with us. I don't know how our members would feel about showing it to their students, and maybe if they don't feel free about coming off of mute, maybe they want to share in the chat what they think, how they think students might react to that, how they think parents would react to it. Have you shown it to parents, and what kind of reaction are you getting from parents? Is it too graphic for them? Is it something that they think their kids should hear, that type of message? Have you had that opportunity, Sergeant Carter?
Well, by and large, it's a talking piece. It's more of a way for them to communicate with their children about life-saving and life-threatening situations. And so nobody's actually came in to me and said that I had the gun pointed at somebody, but I didn't pull it because of you, not because of this particular piece. I've had people say that in other situations prior to this video, but the results are still coming in. We've gotten over 1,000 views on YouTube and about 500 views locally in St. Paul, and the results are still coming in, and it seems that this is played a vital role in people not getting shot. As best I could. I mean, I have some anecdotal stuff, but nothing, no specific data that shows that this thing is as impactful as I believe it to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could add a little bit to that, Deb. We have done a fair number of community showings also, And I know that I've heard from parents at those community showings that setting the context is important and making it clear in the introduction what's what the context is. But from the various ages that have seen the film, I haven't heard a lot of negative response from parents sitting, with their teenage son next to them, saying that they didn't feel like the content was appropriate.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. We are always worried, that parents might think that, the information is too sensitive perhaps for their child. So I appreciate those comments.
Welcome.
Well, if anybody got any criticism, I'd love to hear it. I challenge people to hurt my feelings because this is too vital of a topic to tiptoe around. And I might go home crying like a baby, but it'll give me some more material as to how to best address this issue. So please tell me if you think this, whatever you think, is it weak? Did I overkill? Did I underkill? I don't want to say kill. Did I oversell something? And what's missing? I know we should, next one, we need to have more youth. Um, Maybe some people think that it's probably should have had more women or should it have been more multi-racial, more diverse. I mean, hit me, guys. I'm not, I can handle being a crybaby.
Sergeant Carter, this is Dave Kirkfleet. I'm the superintendent in Sabika. And I know you want criticisms, but this is actually more a question than a criticism. But I'm in rural Minnesota, about 3 hours north of Minneapolis, but I grew up in St. Paul, Minneapolis. My parents still live there, so I feel like I have a good diverse background of both urban and rural culture and whatnot. In our area, my biggest concern as far as guns go is proper gun storage, and I like that you addressed that in your video. And my thoughts are most of my students, when they get to fifth, sixth grade, they're starting to hunt up here. A lot of them obtain their own hunting rifles and all kinds of different weaponry. And I would say most of our households are probably storing them properly, but I know that some probably aren't. I think one of the issues to save lives would be proper storage and less access to guns in the household, when parents aren't around and whatnot. And that I think could come down to an economic issue as well, because there's a cost to proper storage, especially if you're going to acquire, solid gun safes and whatnot. When you as a law enforcement, and thank you for your service, by the way, when you went on, I guess, crime scenes and whatnot, and you were witnessing gun storage issues, I mean, are you finding that to be an issue as well in your area and what your experience is? People just didn't invest in the economics of proper gun storage, so therefore these weapons are easily accessible, and I don't think they should be. And I'm a gun owner myself, but I lock everything up, and we need people to lock stuff up and use things properly. So the storage aspect from your experience, I guess I'm interested in.
And what county did you say you're in?
I'm in Wadena County.
Wadena, I've been up there a few times and visited a lot of friends up there. But I haven't experienced improper gun storage as a result of economic disadvantage. It's just an act of negligence. I myself have thought guns to be more secure than they were, and have had a couple stolen from me in the past years. And so much, I'm not operating myself from a perspective of perfection as much as I'm also operating from a perspective of making amends. And so and so I'm working harder to get the desired results and reduce gun violence in our communities. But it's just an act of negligence. It's just an act of, also it's the issue of over confidence in in how you're securing your guns, because just because your gun's locked up in your car does not make it secure. Just because it's locked up in a secure facility, doesn't necessarily make it secure. You have to think beyond, because theft in my community is not uncommon. Every now and then I come out and even though I've resolved my although I've resolved my problem with that, and I've come out in my car and find my car ransacked in the morning if I leave it out in front. Fortunately, I haven't left anything in it, and I've taken preventative caution. So I don't know if that answers your question. It just makes me more dedicated and determined to get the message out of prevention. When you see the video about the lady in the video who lost her son, 2-year-old son, she's my non-biological niece. When that boy died, her grandfather called me up. The way I found out about it was that it was really close to home, because I wrote a book called I wrote a book called Diesel Heart, and there's a picture of me and her grandfather together. We've been best friends since we were little kids, and so all of these hit close home to me in some way or another. So I don't think we can wait until we're all perfect to deal with this problem.
Thank you.
It might be something to address in the next film.
Yeah, and that's something to address in the next film, but we do touch on it though, don't we?
Yeah, you touch on it, but maybe we touch on it harder.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, and hopefully in looking at the curriculum, focusing more on Cody and the accidental shooting might be a way, what were the warning signs there? Well, they were doing drugs. They were playing with guns. Those are maybe, that at least could help steer that conversation. But I agree with you with the storage issues. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Criticisms for Melvin?
Accusations? Accusations? Confirmations? Validations?
Sergeant Carter and Debbie and Pam, I really do think the gun storage issue that Dave has brought up is really an important one. It seems every fall, especially in greater Minnesota, we're hearing about kids forgetting that they have their hunting rifle, for example, in their car, and it's on school grounds. And so that's something our superintendents face frequently. But also whenever we have a student that is showing potential violence in school, as administrators, we ask the parents, do they have access to weapons? So it's something that's really top of mind for us, and that we need to emphasize, even though you rightfully point out, Sergeant Carter, that you can have things locked up and they can still get at them. It might slow some people down, and it might actually prevent some, as you know. So we really want to emphasize the safety of storage of weapons, because we know our kids have access to them for different reasons.
Good point. Thank you so much.
Good feedback. Thank you. All right. Well, I think that we're almost at the top of the hour here. And I want to thank all of you for your time. It's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Sergeant Carter. It's not every day that we get to hear from people like you and our partners and at our elbow, and trying to ensure that we're doing everything we can to prevent gun violence. And we know that we have endured some really terrible situations, and we appreciate your perspective and your willingness to help us, because our hearts are together and we're united in this effort. So thank you so much. And thanks to all the participants. And Dave, thank you for running the technology and being here. We appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.